Greetings all. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Abby Robinson, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Atlas Corps and also a Class 2 alum. I extend a special welcome to our entire community and want to really shout out those joining us from the American Indian Foundation, as well as Atlas Corps. With your support, this partnership has been made possible. And today is a milestone day. We officially launch the American India Foundation Impact Fellowship in the United States, a new collaboration between the American India Foundation and Atlas Corps. The fellowship is the U.S. service-focused leg of the American India Foundation AIF bilateral fellowship program and is being implemented through a partnership with Atlas Corps. And as I mentioned, this partnership represents an organizational milestone for both entities. For Atlas Corps, we have collaborated over the years with AIF, including they also hosted an Atlas Corps Fellow. In addition, the idea of Atlas Corps originated in India. While our founder, Scott Beal, was working and living in India, he came up with this idea of this international exchange program for social change leaders. And our first class included 3 fellows from India. So it is so special that today we come full circle and we launched this new official partnership to strengthen our ties with India and to engage more emerging professionals from India. And we really want to thank the American India Foundation for helping make it happen. To celebrate this event, we bring together dynamic speakers from both organizations. We shall hear from both our CEOs, as well as alumni from both programs, and hear details into the fellowship. So those of you who are joining and thinking about applying, we're going to provide you some of that information. We'll also have a question and answer, so I encourage you, whether you are joining on Facebook or YouTube, share your questions, and at the end, we'll try to get to as many of those as possible. I also invite you to visit the webpage, aif.atlascorps.org. That includes all the details, including how to apply. On that note, let's get started. It is my honor to welcome American India Foundation CEO, Nishant Pandey, who will share a few words about what this collaboration means. Nishant, please join me.
Thank you so much, Abby. Hello, everyone. Well, first of all, very happy New Year to all of you. Good morning, good evening, depending on your location. I'm so happy and excited to be joining this very special launch so early in 2022. I couldn't have asked for a better beginning of the year. But I do hope that, all your friends and family are staying safe and healthy. Thankfully, Omicron is relatively mild, but it's also a root reminder that COVID has not gone away. So please take all precautions and take care of yourself and your family and friends. I also want to thank, the AIF staff and Atlas Corps staff for putting this event together. As I said, I'm extremely excited about the launch of this special segment, a new segment to our 20-year-old fellowship program. For those of you who may not be familiar with AIF, AIF was created 20 years back in the aftermath of the Bhuj earthquake. For those of you who may be my age will remember, it was a very tragic humanitarian disaster, but it led to creation of AIF. We have a very simple mission, very simple mandate. Our mission is to empower underprivileged women, children, and youth in India, and do it in a way that it strengthens the relationship, the partnership between the 2 largest democracies of the world, US and India. We believe that poverty is multidimensional, so we work on health, education, and livelihoods. and leadership development, which is intrinsic to everything that we do. And therefore, the whole US India, what we call as US India bridge building, is a very important part of AIF's mandate, and the fellowship program contributes directly to it. So it is not a surprise that the fellowship program happens to be our oldest program. It started pretty much at the same time as creation of AIF. But obviously, over a period of time, it has gone through its own evolutionary journey based on our own learnings, based on the feedback from various stakeholders, most importantly, the fellows who participated in the program. So the fellowship program was started in 2001-2. And for the first few years, it was kind of focused on disaster relief and long-term rehabilitation. And then the scope got expanded to more long-term issues. Obviously, the three issues of AI's priorities, health, education, and livelihoods, but also lots of other issues like women's rights, human rights, legal rights of LGBTQ communities, and so on. So a number of environmental issues, of course. So a number of topics. And then in 2011, something interesting, important happened. Again, based on the feedback that we got from the fellows, we expanded the scope of the program to include 25% of the cohort from within India. That we believe, based on what we heard, will increase the opportunity for this binational learning and exchange platform that we were creating through the fellowship program. So that was an important milestone. It was also around that time that we named the fellowship program in honor of President Bill Clinton, who played a very important instrumental role in creation of AIF in 2001 and 2. And the program has been running all through these 20 years, and about 501 fellows have graduated from this program. It has created an immense impact on all kinds of indicators, but there are two things which kind of stand out for me. Out of these 501 fellows, almost 75% of them have gone on to become social entrepreneurs. So it's very clear, and you will hear from one of them today. So it's very clear that the fellowship program has provided a springboard for social entrepreneurs with strong vision in the field of social justice to kind of formalize their effort and institutionalize their effort, and to make a difference in the world for many, many decades to come. The second, I think, thing that stands out for me is that all of them, it doesn't matter what they chose to do after completing their fellowship, have become very strong champions of a strong US India relationship, especially on the people to people and on the civil society to civil society side. I don't think I need to go into the detail of why the US India relationship itself is a very important, very strategic goal for all of us. I think that is quite self explanatory, although I can speak for hours and hours on that. I can assure you that. So, when we completed 20 years of our fellowship program last year, obviously, like any other learning organization, we went into a reflective exercise on what it means for this program going ahead. So the first thing we did is to renew our commitment to the program for the next 10 years. I don't think we run many programs, but I don't think there is any other program in the history of AIF where we have expressed our explicit commitment to a program for 10 years at a stretch in one go. So this program obviously occupies a very special place in the AIF portfolio. So that is the first thing we did. And then, of course, a series of other uh, changes that we have made in the program. Uh, Basically, the overall idea is to expand the scope of the program. One, of course, thematically, looking at arts, culture, science, sports, and how these fields can play an instrumental role in making a difference in the lives of people in both countries and strengthening the ties. So, looking at it from a service perspective, of course. Um, and the second thing we did is to change the name of the program and call it Banyan Impact Fellowship, because banyan tree represents the all-encompassing spirit and philosophy, as I'm sure all of you know. So, under the Banyan Impact Fellowship program, which is the new avatar of the program, if you like, we also felt, based on feedback and over the years, and um, feedback from various stakeholders, we also felt that to make it truly binational, we need to add a new segment in the program, which is about bringing young, bright professionals, especially from the civil society space in India, to the US and invest in their leadership development, their capacity building, so that they can go back with the new skill set and make a contribution to the civil society space in India. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but essentially, India has a very vibrant civil society. We all know that. But one very um, kind of common feature of civil society in India is that most of the organizations are very obviously founder led, but also driven by the founder, who are often very charismatic and very passionate, and things like that, which sometimes means that there is not enough investment in the second line of leadership. Part of it is also to do with lack of resources. NGOs in India are, by definition, resource constrained organizations. So we thought that this could be a great way to strengthen the capacity of civil society organizations who are doing excellent work on the ground, so that they can sustain their work by developing a second line of leadership beyond the charismatic founder of the organization. So that was the kind of thinking. And of course, we have used our 20 years of experience of engaging with civil society organizations as host organizations. Um, so that is the kind of the new thinking that has informed the new avatar of the Fellowship Foundation, the Banyan Impact Fellowship. Of course, the idea is that it will continue to strengthen or to contribute to strengthening of US India partnership, especially on the civil society to civil society side. And of course, it will strengthen the civil society, and it will create a cadre of um, leaders in the civil society space who bring new set of skills by their exposure, by learning, by exchange, and by leadership development in the US. So that's the whole idea, which makes the Banyan Impact Fellowship, in my opinion, a very unique program in the US India corridor in terms of learning and exchange, by focusing on the philosophy of service. There are several other exchange programs between US and India, but I can't think of anyone which is exclusively focused on service. So that's the exciting part. The first cohort of the Banyan Impact Fellowship program, incidentally, started last month. These are fellows who are going to serve in India, and we have just launched the recruitment process for the fellows for the US. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in this very exciting launch event. And I hope that you will either apply or will spread the word among your friends and family and peers so that more and more people can benefit from it. I also want to use this opportunity to thank all our supporters because it's really your support that makes all of this great work possible. I also want to mention specifically the Krishnan Shah Family Foundation and RIST, who have made the resources available for us to think about a 10-year vision. Obviously, in absence of financial resources, it's very difficult to create a 10-year vision. So thank you so much, KSFF and RIST, for supporting this initiative. So I think with that, I'm coming back for the Q&A session, but I think with that, I will hand it back to Abby. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nishant. And I want to echo that thank you. We are so appreciative of all the supporters who are helping to make this happen. And a special thank you to you for your vision and your energy. For Atlas Corps, truly is an honor to partner with such an accomplished organization, to continue the legacy of what you all created with your fellowship program, and to be an active part of strengthening the US-India connections.
And
So we
Abby,
are really
we
looking
couldn't
forward to this.
find a better organization than Atlas Corps for this segment of the Banyan Impact Fellowship. As you said, we have the two organizations have worked together and we have had a fantastic relationship, of course, with Scott and now with Bijan and the whole team. So thank you for saying yes to the idea of partnership.
Well, mutual appreciation. Uh, Excellent. And, when we talk about legacy, one of the most effective ways to understand the impact of these fellowship programs is by hearing from the participants. And today we have two alumni, one from Atlas Corps and one from AIF, who are going to share their stories and how fellowship participation impacted their long-term professional as well as personal lives. Our first alumni speaker is an Atlas Corps fellow from Class 1. She served at Ashoka Youth Venture in Washington, D.C., and is currently employed by UNICEF India. And just to give you a little insight into Gargi Saha, is her name, is that since her fellowship, Gargi has worked with thousands of affected communities devastated by the Kosi floods in 2008. She was also involved in direct rescue operations along the bordering districts of Bihar, Nepal, for more than 2,000 children. And she also has successfully enacted legislation and built models that work to combat child and human trafficking in South Asia. Gargi really embodies the Atlas Corps values as she continues to serve for a cause greater than herself while creating tremendous local and global change. And a special note with Gargi, in 2021, last year, Gargi was recognized as the Atlas Corps Alumni Changemaker, which is an annual award we use to recognize one of our outstanding alumni. So it was a great honor for me to welcome Gargi to the stage to share more of her personal story. Gargi. And let's make sure Gargi is off of mute. Let's try again, Gargi. Your words were so amazing that we're speechless.
Thank you so much, Abby, for your kind words of appreciation. That really means a lot. And, today when I am here, I am also representing the first batch of Atlas Corps, including my fellows from India. I am really, honored to be here. And all the very best to this entire Banyan, Impact Partnership. I would like to share, how I was a struggling kind of a, young professional. I always wanted to work for the development sector in India. And I got an opportunity just after completing my master's. I was working with Childline in Delhi and then, moved on to the other five neighboring northern states in India. However, that deep passion within me to take forward the issues of the children from the most marginalized communities, children and young persons, to the policy level, that needed some kind of a bridging, and that is when Atlas Corps came forward. And after like almost like a 5-6 months of thorough this thing, I was selected as an Atlas Corps fellow, which was such a huge honor. And this fellowship gave me the opportunity to gain those extra skills. That exposure gave the global platform. After a year of this exchange program, I came back to my country to serve for the most marginalized communities of children, women, and young persons in none other than Bihar and Chhattisgarh. Like Abby said, a lot of difficult times I have seen, including the Kosi floods and similar kind of drought situation, etc. As well as I got an opportunity to work in Chhattisgarh, one of India's left wing extremist states. And this also helped me to connect with a lot of civil society organizations actually in India. And I was also able to make an impact through developing cadres of young persons, not only from the affluent but from the most marginalized communities, because many times what happens is that they are the ones who are left out. And like someone mentioned before me, that it's so important to develop the second rung of leadership, and especially for the young persons, the adolescents. And that is what I'm doing currently in Bihar, working with thousands of such marginalized young persons, youth, trying to empower them, and also building the capacity of civil society organizations, both at the national as well as the community level. I would also like to share, I know there are a lot of young persons who have a lot of potential and they really want to do something for the society. Please keep your passion up. Don't let that, die down, because that is what is going to make a change. Whatever cause that you are most compassionate about, let that keep burning inside, and keep your focus. But at the same time, it's very important to recognize the skills that a lot of times we lack, or the expertise and the exposure. So don't let those opportunities go. Please try and get advantage of whatever opportunities comes your way. And including the Atlas Corps fellowship, I think what I am today, I owe a lot to the Atlas Corps fellowship. The kind of exposure, the global platform that I have received in the past, and I'm still receiving, this has been amazing. I mean, from 7 fellows to start with in 2007, we have moved on to more than 100 countries. I mean, this is just amazing over a period of 14 years. And a huge shout out to Scott. I still remember those days of our struggles. And we used to be told that whatever we do, whatever we achieve as the first batch, will actually shape the others, the following batches. So we had a lot of kind of burden on our shoulders, and I really hope that we can keep up to those expectations. Thanks to Abby, thanks to Bidjan for your leadership. And I really wish Atlas Corps and this entire partnership a long way to go. And I really wish all our young persons who are listening to us to let that spirit up, and keep achieving the stars. So thank you, and over to you, Abby.
Thank you, Gargi. Always an inspiration. And I love two key phrases I heard you say, is one about keeping your passion and also holding on to those dreams and finding a path to make them reality. And I even feel now more than ever, we needed to hear that today, and hearing how it's not always an easy path. Sometimes we're uncertain about that future, and know that by connecting to these opportunities, such as a fellowship experience or engaging with others in the community, we can find that path and find where our passions lie and how they can impact our community. So thank you for sharing those words, and really thank you for all you've achieved, and keep on inspiring, keep on doing your good work locally in India. Excellent. Now we're going to hear from an AIF alum. We're going to hear from Prashant Anand, who was in 2017 to 2018 an AIF Clinton Fellow. He served at the Northeast Affected Areas Development Society, NEADS, in Jorhat, Assam, and he's currently the co-founder of the Samantha Foundation. And just to give you a little more insight into his career, he was as for his fellowship, after his fellowship, he became the co-founder of the Samantha Foundation. And that is an organization that works in the remote geographies of Lower Shavaliks in Uttarakhand on the issue of education. And he has started working on whole school transformation in forest and public schools as part of an effort with a focus on the girl child. And I think what's interesting about Prashant, his journey started with acquiring an engineering degree and leading to work with IBM, Sun Life India, for a time leading to work with urban communities on education. And from that work in the private sector, he went on to work in Jorhat, a part of Upper Assam, in the far northeast of India, with the Missing tribe. And he learned he had an avid interest in bringing together minds to resolve local problems. And he has been engaged in being part of collectives that propagate the sense of shared action. So, Prashant, I welcome you to this stage to share a little bit more about your dynamic professional journey and how your fellowship participation impacted you.
Thank you, Abby, for the kind words. And I would also like to thank the American India Foundation and Atlas Corp that has given me an opportunity to share my story. So my story is, like it starts from the days when you are, family in India and you've got to make a living. And I took up engineering as a degree when I was a graduate. I went on to work in the corporate for a while, and at that point in time, as an engineering graduate, you believe in science more than humans, and I think that's something that changed, as I took up the path of development. The American India Fellowship has been instrumental, I would say, in awarding me an experience that developed a sense of interdisciplinary approaches to problems. That is something I experienced as I worked with the tribals in the Northeast as part of my fellowship. And being part of a family, the AIF family of fellows, that was amazing. Learning each day, sharing our experiences, looking at problems with different lenses, having brainstorming sessions on what could be done, what's the way out, having those heated conversations and coming up with a conclusion that we would then undertake in our respective geographies. I think that is something that enabled me, to kind of go further. Which led me, into the forests of Uttarakhand, in the western Himalayas in India. I traveled all along these forests, met different communities. I think it was a sense of, knowing people, engaging minds that I learned during my fellowship days, which, gave me that sense that, be with communities, understand them, look at problems from all perspectives, be them indigenous or, different lenses within a community, women, men, children, elderly. So that went on, and finally we settled very close to the forests and decided to work with pastoral, nomadic, tribal, and rural communities. The essence being education, as that's what the community came up with as problem that they were struggling to work with, and that's something that I learned as an AIF fellow. The sense of getting from within the communities the challenges that we are looking to solve. As a fellow, when I talk to all my co-fellows and alums, I mean, that's the beauty of the American India Foundation Fellowship, I would say. It gives you an opportunity to be with people from different two different parts of the world, people from different backgrounds, like from aspiring doctors to I would say psychologists to childcare educators. And so you've got so much variety out there to catch up with people and learn and understand, and that has been a key part of what I have been in the last 3 to 4 years that I've been working right now. And these have been challenging years, I would say. And as and when I encounter a challenge, my first go to is my friends back in the AI family. Talk to them, discuss problems with them, look at solutions. What can we think of? We all are connected. I mean, that's one thing that is always given me that option of going up to a friendly place and talking about the problems we face. I mean, we've been working on a lot of challenges out here, right from access to quality education, health, girl child health. So there've been a lot of issues that we've been working with, and it's been really wonderful to kind of connect with my co-fellows and get perspectives. So a key that I have understood as my fellowship experience and working for all these years is that it's better to engage with more and more people, discuss problems, look at solutions as a collective, not reinvent the wheel, or rather, if there is something that's already been accomplished, one needs to contextualize it. So even for two different geographies like US and India, I think a lot of the problems are based on you know the inequity that exists, or the humanitarian belief systems that we look up to. And I think that's something that we as a collective, as people in different locations or different geographies, learn from each other and work towards solving problems. So for me, this opportunity, this launch of this new initiative of AIF offers that opportunity to a lot of the youth to not only accomplish personal and professional goals, but bring back knowledge. I think the one key takeaway for all the youth who apply for it is to bring back the knowledge and the network learnings. And they are the ones which will actually impact communities back home. And it's vice versa. I mean, even if they go there, they do take up their own learnings from here as they go along. And I think that's the best part of this new initiative that AIF is taking up, that it's deepening the people to people engagement, which AIF strongly believes in, and which I've been experiencing all these years that I've been part of the AIF family, and also a co-founder at Samantha. Build bridges, build friends, and collectively contest challenges and problems. Thank you, Abby. I would like to welcome you back now.
Thank you, Prashant. And I love your mention of family, because Atlas Core talks about that as well. And I feel like we have just extended our family circle to involve both organizations, which is an amazing opportunity for incoming participants, as well as you all are alumni. And that's so exciting. And also your key message about multiplying impact. We talk a lot about at Atlas Core about the true impact of this fellowship is not during the active service, but actually what happens as alumni into the future. And I think you and Gargi both demonstrated that in your words. And I'm so excited as we launch and continue to implement this collaboration, that multiplying of impact we're going to see in India, as well as in the United States, as well as through these connections and through this family that we're going to create together. So thank you so much, Prashant, for sharing your words today. Excellent. And on that note, we're going to round out our illustrious list of speakers, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the details of the fellowship and how to apply. So now it is my distinct honor to welcome Atlas Core CEO to the front to share some words about this collaboration. So Bijan Nishant, I welcome you forward.
Thank you so much, Abby. And I want to pick up something that Nishant said. There's no better way to start the year with launching a cooperation like this. And Nishant, you mentioned the role that the American India Foundation has played in this fellowship in particular. And when I hear Banyan as a term, it reminds me of the big trees that I visited in Rajasthan some while ago, and how strong they feel. And I think that's a great metaphor for the corporation, because you mentioned that you are in it for the long term together, and thanks to your supporters. And I really appreciate that. There's no better way for me as a CEO to start with such a strong partnership going forward. It's really interesting because 2 days ago, and it reminded me listening to these leaders who just spoke, 2 days ago was Martin Luther King Day in the US. And it reminded me of that long history that India actually played in the US civil society and civil rights movement, because many of you will remember that 63 years ago, Martin Luther King Jr. went on a month-long trip to India because of Mahatma Gandhi and the role model that he was for the civil rights struggle in the US. And 2 days ago was a good day to remind ourselves that civil societies and social justice leaders have a long history of cooperating together, which we can build on. And it also reminds me, and hopefully you, that when we think about developing self, developing others, and leading movements, something that is very important to what Atlas Corps does and wants to do and help leaders in, is about the integrity that Martin Luther King Jr. showed, is about the leadership skills and the leadership examples that Mahatma Gandhi and others set, that have a long history of showing us where we can draw energy and motivation from. And it also reminds me of Atlas Corps' mission and what we want to bring to this partnership. We are so grateful to be working together with one of the most important countries and an important organization to focus on Indian talent, on Indian social change leaders and civil society leaders who will get the opportunity to serve in the US and in India. We want to broaden that. And it reminds me of an anecdote of a colleague of mine back, and Nishant knows this, when I was working at Save the Children, a colleague I met in Indonesia a while ago from India, who came one evening brimming with gratitude and joy, mentioning, this is the first time I've met a Pakistani in my life. And I mentioned this example because she said, we are so similar and we have so much to learn from each other. I mentioned this example because Atlas Corps represents a community from over 110 countries. And this is something we want to do in addition to developing those leadership skills. We want to bring people together and connect. And Prashant, you mentioned we need to be connected. We need to be connected as local leaders and as global leaders and focused on challenges like never before. If you think about inequality, COVID, climate change, and all the conflicts going on, this is what we want to do, bring young leaders together in order to solve global challenges on a local level, on a global level, together. So this is why I want to reiterate something that all of you have mentioned. Please, young leaders, young civil society leaders, apply for this fellowship. Help us bring you to the US, build your skills, and return to India and work together on a global and local level to solve challenges like we've never seen them before. I want to thank all of you, Nishant, the American India Foundation, and my own team who have worked together really hard to bring this together. All of our supporters, I look forward to these applications, and I look forward to many more occasions on which we can celebrate all of your leadership. Thank you very much. And Abby, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Bijan. And really, thank you for reminding us about the potential and the power of these young leaders, and that when we bring dynamic individuals together in these community-based experiences, as we heard about it, talk about it as a family, that's when we really achieve impact, because we can support, we can inspire developing others, developing selves, and leading movements. So we're looking forward to doing that. So thank you for renewing in us and reminding us the value of these young leaders. Excellent. I just want to, again, thank all of our dynamic leaders. This was truly an inspiration to hear from the top, our two CEOs, Nishant and Bijan, sharing your perspectives and really the organization mission and vision behind this type of collaboration. And then hearing from the participants, Gargi and Prashant, how you both benefited from this experience and how you continue to rely on these communities is just an example of what we plan to achieve and what this support that we're receiving from these communities is going to achieve. And so on that note, we're going to hear more about the details about this fellowship. So all of you who are listening and might be thinking about applying, now is the time to focus, to tune in so you can learn more. I also want to remind you that the website AIF.atlascorps.org has key details as well as the link to the application. So on that note, I'm going to invite my colleague, Zachary Morris, to the front, and he's going to share all the highlights. So Zach, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been really inspiring to hear all the speakers today, and I'm excited to talk about the fellowship details and logistics. Amazing. Well, hello, everyone. I am going to talk to you a little bit more about what the Banyan Impact Fellowship seeks to do. Similar to the Atlas Corps Fellowship, fellows will participate in the 14-month blended model, which includes starting remotely full-time in India prior to U.S. arrival. Fellows will serve full-time at host organizations in the United States, addressing social issues that complement their expertise. They'll increase their leadership skills through hands-on experience while developing invaluable connections to learning effective practices. You can work on a broad range of social issues, from the education to the environment to human rights, and so on. Again, complementing the expertise that you already have. Your role and daily responsibilities at the host organization varies greatly from organization to organization. And the US-based component of the fellowship allows participants to engage in group cultural activities like the DC Monuments Tour, sporting events, US holiday celebrations, and more. In December, we hosted a fun holiday party where fellows made gingerbread houses. Since many US embassies around the world are still operating at a reduced capacity, there will be 3 different US arrival dates based on flight and visa availability. In addition to doing day-to-day work with the host organization, you'll also be participating in leadership training with both AIF and the Atlas Corps Global Leadership Lab. The Atlas Corps Global Leadership Lab comprises more than 200 hours of experiential learning that is both theoretical and practical. They are 4-day training immersions convened over the course of the fellowship 3 times a year, where you'll participate in presentations and workshops led by innovative social change leaders who share practical strategies for social impact, as well as their own professional journeys, such as you've heard here today. The professional development series explores critical soft skills like conflict resolution and leadership. Now, you've heard today about a lot of the benefits of being part of a fellowship program in the United States. And we're really excited about the Banyan Impact Fellowship because you'll be part of 2 great networks, the Atlas Corps Network and the AIF Network. And as Abby had mentioned before, we are both extending our family circles. You will benefit from dual professional development and networking opportunities provided by both AIF and Atlas Corps, as I mentioned previously. And speaking about the benefits, it's all about, as Gargi said, keeping your passion and holding on to that dream and finding that path to make it a reality. And the Banyan Impact Fellowship can help with that. Or Prashant, it's collaborating with other leaders and finding solutions to social challenges and problems that affect civil societies, both in the US and India, and figuring out how to collectively address those challenges and multiply impact. It's just really a great opportunity to get that perspective in both the US and India and how they relate with one another. Now, here are some of the details of applying for the fellowship. To create the next generation of social change makers in India, AIF and Atlas Corps encourage emerging leaders with a minimum of 5 years of professional experience to apply for this opportunity. Ideal candidates are mid-career professionals who have experienced leading processes or teams and have influenced an organization strategy. All of the requirements for the program can be viewed on the website, as well as some details here on the slide. Now, how do you go about applying to the fellowship? Well, you visit, again, aif.atlascorps.org, and it's a multi-step process. The first step is to fill out an application. The application for this fellowship and our classic Atlas Corps fellowship are the same, and it requires a copy of your undergraduate transcript or diploma and 2 references. Attaching a CV or resume is encouraged, and you may be asked to submit samples of your work to provide evidence of your professional skills. If your application passes review, you'll be invited to an interview and then considered a semifinalist for potential placement for either the Atlas Corps Fellowship or the Banyan Impact Fellowship. For the Banyan Impact Fellowship, you may be asked to respond to supplemental questions and participate in an interview. with AIF. Now, our priority application deadline is January 31st. So coming up quickly, your references will not need to be submitted by January 31st, but should be submitted within a couple weeks of that deadline and by the time we interview you. Now, I'm just going to share a couple of application tips with you in order to ensure that you are successful when applying. The first one is to be specific in your response to the questions, especially when talking about your accomplishments and professional experience. Think about what makes your profile unique. My second piece of advice is about the skills section and the social issue section. It's really crucial for us to understand your abilities and what will make you successful in service with the host organization. Since we have a diversity of different host organizations, we really focus on trying to find the right match for your professional and social issues. So those questions should be answered thoroughly, as the most successful candidates demonstrate their expertise in a specific skill set and social issue by providing detailed information about professional experience, responsibilities, with concrete examples that communicate accomplishments. It's important that your application demonstrates at least 2 years of experience in a certain skill area, although it is ideal to have 5 experience overall. And that's how you can demonstrate your competency in one. In terms of English, it's important to be clear and concise and to always check over your spelling and grammar, as that is an important feature of how we rate your application and review you for a potential fellowship, since you'll be serving in an English-speaking environment 40 hours a week. And lastly, it's important to write a really strong biography, since that is what prospective host organizations will see first. And this bio should have your professional skills, accomplishments, and experience integrated thoroughly. It's really an opportunity to sell yourself in 300 words or less and let the host organization know what you're an expert in. And it complements those strong answers for the skills and social issue area sections. So that is it for talking about the details of the fellowship. We will be going into question and answer now. Yeah.
On that note, remember aif.atlascore.org, and we really appreciate that insight. And so for some of the questions we've received on social media, we have a few that we're going to ask. And so we have our dynamic group here, and so I'm going to serve as moderator. And the first question is actually directed toward you, Zach. And it's a question about how does the global pandemic impact the US-based portion of this fellowship program?
Yes, so it's a constantly changing scenario. We never know what's going to happen. However, as I mentioned before, we have this blended fellowship model where you start remotely serving with the host organization, and you have different arrival dates for when you can come to the US based on visa availability. However, for India, the travel ban was lifted a couple months ago, which makes it easier and paves the path for you to come to the US.
Great. And I think also important to remind everyone that Atlas Corps has successfully brought fellows from around the world to the United States over these past 2 years. So we have been able to do it, and our team is ready to continue to do it. So we are confident. And excellent. So now my next question is for Nishant, and I'm also going to tag Bijan to provide the second answer. So Nishant, as an organization focused on global leadership development, what are AIF's goals and hopes for these 10 years that you mentioned in your opening remarks?
Thank you, Abby. And if you allow me, actually, I want to answer another question, which I read in the comment section, which I think is important to clarify before I answer your question, if it's okay, right?
Yes.
So looks like maybe some people are confused that what we are talking about today is the entirety of AIF's Banyan Impact Fellowship program. So I just want to clarify that this is an additional new segment to what we have been doing for many, many years. So if you are based in the US and want to go to India for service experience, there is another segment, which is the long-lasting segment of the Impact Fellowship, Banyan Impact Fellowship, that you can apply for. As I mentioned in my remarks in the beginning of the event, we already have a cohort of 12 fellows serving in India. Of course, because of COVID, we had to limit it to only Indian fellows. But there is that segment, and we are, of course, not talking about that in this event. We are only focusing on getting the Indian fellows to come from India to the US, right? So I just wanted to clarify that, and you can get more information on our website. Now, coming to you, I think we have a very simple goal, which I think I kind of briefly touched upon, but I would like to, elaborate a little bit more. Our goal over the next 10 years, and again, thanks to the long-term visibility on financial commitments from our supporters, our goal over the next 10 years to both deepen and broaden the constituency of future leaders, especially in the civil society space, who are invested in the idea of a strong US-India relationship and in the idea of strengthening the impact that this relationship creates on people in both countries. So that is the kind of 10-year goal. Of course, as I said, from our existing fellowship program, we already have 501 fellows who have graduated. But someone mentioned once, and I think this is something that we would like to kind of maybe invest a little bit more in the coming years, is that, of course, these 501 fellows are fellows who applied successfully, got the fellowship, and completed the fellowship. But then there are thousands and thousands of other people, young professionals, who applied for the fellowship. So they may not have got the fellowship, but they were already interested in the idea of strengthening the US-India relationship. And I think that is a pool that we would like to kind of tap into much more going forward, and basically expand the constituency of people like that. Again, sitting on the East Coast, or if you're on the West Coast, or in India, you may feel, hey, what is this fuss about? Why are we talking about US-India relationship? We already have a good relationship. But I think if you look at historically, the relationship between the two countries has obviously improved significantly in the last 10, 15 years. And a lot of it is, and rightly so, being driven by the two governments and the business community. When we talk about people to people and civil society to civil society relationship, there is still a lot that needs to be done. And I'm not talking about all the hundreds of thousands and probably millions of Indian students who come to study in the US. I'm talking about the traffic going back from the US and India. So that is what we want to do. We want to make sure that there are enough people on both sides who are passionate about the relationship between the two countries, because we know from historical global experience that the relationship between two countries is only sustainable in the long run and gets strengthened if there is people to people connection. And I think that's what we are trying to contribute.
Great insight, the people-to-people connections. And Abhijan, I'm going to turn it to you to share a little bit from the Atlas Corp perspective, whether 10 years or a year, what are some of the vision for Atlas Corp as you see it?
Wonderful. And I want to pick up on what Nishant said, because he spoke about the people who are not managing to get the fellowship themselves. And it links to something I am very, very keen to develop, which is thinking and acting on scale. How can we connect more civil society and change leaders from all sectors? And, you know, I came into this organization and found Atlas Core has started to do that with the Virtual Leadership Institute. We are bringing people together virtually, and we're creating connections across countries, be it Russia, be it our work in African countries, and be it right now for Singapore and even Brazil and West Africa. So there's a lot we can do. We have to think about more opportunities, because as Nishant said, when I think about India and the largest democracy, this is where some of the talent and the solutions for what global challenges look like and Indian challenges will come from. So the next 10 years, I see us working together, thinking about scale and delivering what we promise to do with quality. It sounds boring, but it's very important. If we don't deliver on the quality of the experience of the organization's hosting, of the fellows that we select and help grow, we are not succeeding. So we're planting a seed, and we need to continue to invest in the quality of our candidates, the quality of that experience, and the quality and connection of the community. Then it will grow and scale.
Great insights. I love. There are great things ahead for both organizations. So on that note, I have two more questions. The first I'm going to direct towards Zach regarding the application. So there've been a few questions about if someone applies, an applicant from India applies to the Banyan Impact Fellowship, are they also eligible for the broader Atlas Core Fellowship? And if an Indian applicant has already applied within the Atlas Core system, will they also be considered for the Banyan Impact Fellowship?
Yes, so thank you so much for that question, Abby. It's the same application for both the Banyan Impact Fellowship for service in the United States. For service in India, it's different. And it is the same as the Atlas Core Fellowship application. However, for the Banyan Impact Fellowship, you may be asked to provide supplemental information later on. If you're currently an Atlas Core semifinalist from India, you do not need to apply again. You should have received an email from me asking for your interest in the Banyan Impact Fellowship so that we consider you. So again, it's filling out an interest form that you may have received if you qualified for this special opportunity.
Excellent. And we also posted on social media two sources of information, the website, aif.atlascore.org. Also, you can email your questions, apply@atlascore.org. So great places to get your questions answered. And now the last question is going to be a wrap up, hearing from the three of you. And the question is, what is one tip you have for our potential applicants of what you think would make their application strong? So what's something that you might want to see from the application? And we have the perspectives from the Atlas Core team, as well as Nishant, who was a host organization. So Zach, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll go to Bijan and then Nishant. So Zach.
Sure. I shared a couple of tips earlier, but I would say the most important one from my perspective is just being specific about your accomplishments. I cannot emphasize that enough. What makes you unique?
Great. And Bijan, what did you recommend?
I think you know that already. I always look for self-awareness. I want to see how people have grown through challenges and whether they are aware of their strengths and their challenges in which they want to grow in. That's my number one.
Great insight. And our big finale, Nishant, what would you recommend for someone's application?
Well, I would recommend something which I think is not only going to improve and strengthen your application, but also I think make the fellowship experience much more meaningful, which is passion. Show your passion. Find a way to convey your passion in your application. find a way to communicate it. This is not a program where, which you can do on the sides as a hobby or something. It's going to really extract from you everything that you have in terms of commitment and passion, so that you maximize this opportunity and go back to your organization and kind of contribute in a significantly more substantive way than you were doing before. So passion is, I think, a very, very important ingredient of your application and your 12 months as a fellow.
Excellent insight. I think words for all, whether applying for the fellowship or just being a impactful social change leader in the world, passion and self-awareness. So thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts and perspectives and answering our questions. And on that note, I also want to thank everyone for joining us here today. We are excited to continue implementation of this collaboration. We look forward to receiving your application. Just a few quick reminders. The deadline to apply, January 31st, 2022. You can find out more information at aif.atlascorp.org. It also includes some highlights as to some of the details, the eligibility, some of the timelines. It is anticipated that selected fellows will start in July of 2022. So over these months, there's a multi-step process. So we'll be working through that process. And then we do encourage any questions to be emailed. That is the most effective way to hear from us. apply.atlascorp.org. So we look forward to receiving your applications. We appreciate the ongoing support, and we are excited for the implementation of this collaboration. So stay tuned for more details throughout the year. Thank you.